Hello and welcome back to the All Out Brits Podcast, the podcast where we send the house on all things NFL from across the seas here in sunny, wonderful old England and talk about everything that goes on in and around the NFL. And this week, we're looking at the NFC and AFC championship games between four sides that are battling for a place at the Super Bowl. I think it's like the equivalent of like the Champions League, Elliot. I'm not too sure. I'm sure we'll talk about that because, again, we are clueless old Brits when it comes to anything about NFL. And speaking of clueless old Brits, Mr. Elliot Greenwood to join us always and talk all things. How are you doing, my friend?
As always, I'm clueless and I'm British. It's great to be here, bro, as always. Championship weekend, it's been a long time coming. I love playoff football so much. 4 teams will enter, only 2 will progress to the Super Bowl. Which 2 will there be, Tarrans? We will see in due course. Sunday, we will find out a lot about a lot of players, and the 4 teams that are there will all be vying for a place in the Super Bowl. But we will see who can get the job done.
That's the one. Come Sunday, come Monday morning here in England, there's going to be happiness, there's going to be heartbreaks, and most likely there's going to be hangovers. But it's all in the fun of American football. And it's all in the fun of being a British fan following American football and trying to explain to a lot of people why on earth you have bags around your eyes on a Monday morning going into work. And the first game, which is probably going to keep us up a little later than normal, is going to be the AFC clash between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Out in Baltimore, it's probably strange territory for the Kansas City Chiefs because normally they have it at Arrowhead. It's no Burrowhead this year. It could be Lamar head this year, but no, we don't want Lamar's head. Forget that. Moving on. Let's talk about it then.
We need Lamar Jackson this game. Lamar Jackson has to be the savior of us all. To go through a season where obviously we've seen the influx of Swifties, of Taylor Swift coming to the stadium. We've seen Jackson and Brittany Mahomes do their thing. There's only one man that can save us from a Swiftie Super Bowl. And he goes by the name of Lamar. Lamar Jackson. Stand up tall, sir. You hold that rock. You run past linebackers and safeties. You throw the ball deep. You throw the ball to the seam. Odell Beckham, stand up tall as well. Flowers on the edge, stand up tall. That O-line needs to be formidable against Chris Jones, and I'm sure they will, because Lamar Jackson, this is his legacy game. If he can stop Kansas City and Taylor Swift fans from going all the way to the Super Bowl, Hall of Fame. He's in the All Out Brits Hall of Fame, no matter what. Do you know what I'm saying, bro? He's got to stand up tall. He's got to be the man to deliver, and I have no doubt that he will, because we need silence from the Swifties.
I have a feeling you're a Lana Del Rey fan the way you're acting there, pal. You're not a Taylor Swift fan.
I'm not a Taylor. I'm more Kanye than Taylor, to be honest with you, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. Trying to steal her limelight, and she's not gonna be happy about that. And neither are the Chiefs, but. Let's talk about the Chiefs, actually, because obviously there is a lot of tension and it's valid because it's Travis Kelce, it's Jason Kelce, it's Taylor Swift. We understand that. But for the city as a whole, we know the limelight's been on them for seasons now because the program, the city, the fans, they've had some amazing days out when it comes to the postseason in the NFL. So it's no surprise that they're here. But what's quite interesting this season is the fact that it feels that everything off the pitch has almost propelled them to this point rather than what's gone on the pitch, which normally isn't the case. Obviously, last year, we had Mahomes playing through injury and having to carry, the entire Chiefs side. And now it seems that it's Taylor Swift, their legacy, and what colour jacket she's got on and what jacket Miss Carl Juszczyk's wife's made for her this week that people are concerned about.
I don't mind that, Jack, because those jackets are fire. Those jackets are absolute fire, aren't they, bro?
But do you think as well, obviously we've seen Kelce and Mahomes make history now in the postseason with the amount of receptions and TDs that they've got together. Is this going to add to their history? Is this the game that brings them another Super Bowl appearance?
If they get through this game and they go to the Super Bowl and they win the Super Bowl, this is ultimately an absolute dynasty in itself. It's the Chiefs dynasty. Andy Reid has built something unbelievably special in Kansas. And Patrick Mahomes has been there since day one. It is starting to feel like a bit of a Belichick Brady situation where one can't do it without the other. But I really need Lamar. That's all I'm saying. I really need Lamar. That's all I want. I can't talk too much about the Chiefs. It actually makes me quite angry. The Kelsey box up in the stands, where everyone from Brittany to Jackson Mahomes to Taylor Swift to I don't mind Mama Kelsey. I don't mind her. She's all right. She's
I
happy.
like Kylie as well. I
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
Kelsey part of it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's it. I like the Kelseys. I like Jason, the future Hall of Famer in himself. Interestingly, did you know about? Whilst on the topic of Jason Kelsey, he's a 23rd O lineman in the NFL to make first team All Pro 5 times and the Pro Bowl 7 times.
Oh.
Of those other 21 that are eligible to make the Hall of Fame, they've all gotten in there, other than a man called Jim Taylor. Tarrant, do you know why Jim Taylor hasn't got in there?
No, but I'm sure you'll tell me.
He murdered his wife in 1980, so he's never going to get in the Hall of Fame. So as long as Mr. Jason Kelsey keeps his hands to himself, for the best part of it anyway, and the only thing that he rips off is his shirt to celebrate and chug a beer in the stands, then he's going to the Hall of Fame. That's all we can say about that matter.
But yeah, like you mentioned, as long as he keeps his hand in positive ways, you'll be okay. But like you said, he ripped his shirt off, jumps into the stands, starts picking up kids and waving them in front of Taylor Swift and chugging beers. What's he going to do this week if Travis Kelce gets a touchdown? And even worse, what's he going to do this week if the Chiefs go and progress?
Well, this is the thing. Again, he's in hostile territory. He's in Baltimore. I don't know how the Baltimore fans are going to react if he... I don't think he can jump out of the box in Baltimore. I don't know how the boxes work, but I don't know. I think there's going to be some mischief going on in that box. But to wave a kid in front of potentially your future sister-in-law, just imagine that. Like you're just picking up a random child and waving it in front of your future sister-in-law, and that is actually pretty. I don't know, pretty.
He needs to watch himself, otherwise he ain't making it into that Hall of Fame, as always saying. Yeah,
that's a very, very astute point that you made there, Tarrans. Very, very astute.
Yeah. Now, before we get cancelled, let's head back over to the Baltimore side of it all. What's quite interesting is before the season, we saw the Super Bowl logo, and it's became quite apparent that the colours used in it might have reflected the teams that we end up seeing. And it's been the case for the last few seasons as well. I think before we had like a blue and we had a sort of orange as well, and that ended up being the Rams and the Bengals, and then we end up getting another green and a red, and that ends up being the Chiefs and the Eagles. And this year we had a purple and we had a red as well. Now, what makes it quite interesting is we have a purple team left, we have 2 red teams left, and we have a light blue. So something tells me that one of those light blue teams isn't going to make it in, but it's made for a purple and a red team to make it to the Super Bowl. What do you make of that, of the conspiracies and the script writing and all that?
Well, it's hard not to see it as true, isn't it, to be honest? If it happens for 4 years in a row now, you've got to start thinking, potentially this is something that's going to start, like, come on, need to sort this out, NFL. Obviously, Joe Burrow kind of began this sort of kind of spectacle of what's going on with all the colours and things like that. But interestingly, Tarrant, and something that you're not going to like, the team that tends to win the Super Bowl goes on the bottom, and this year the purple colour is on the bottom and the red colour is on the top. So Baltimore are winning over San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. That is pretty much guaranteed and confirmed. And I think I think that would happen anyway, regardless of what would happen in the bowl game. But yeah, I just think it's a bit weird. It's a bit freaky. And Roger Goodell needs to give his head and his media team a bit of a wobble, because at the start now, it's starting to get a bit where, can we just see a Dallas Cowboys blue next season? Do you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I don't mind it as long as it's Dallas Cowboys blue.
I thought you were a Bears fan.
Hey, mate, shut up. I mean, whether I want to be, I change like the wind, me, bro. Come on.
Yeah, it's not the best way to be, though, is it? And hopefully the wind isn't a factor, as was the wet and the wind in the 49ers' last game. And should we head over to the NFC game then and talk about that? Because I believe there could be some weather issues. I hope that there isn't. But the 49ers versus the Lions, wow, what a game this could end up being on the other side of it all. Now, I'm going to put my bias aside. I'm going to let you talk first, pal, about this game and your overall thoughts and where you think it actually will end up going.
So I think this game is not going to be won with the quarterbacks. It's not going to be, the quarterbacks are very, very good. Both Brock and Goff are very, very good quarterbacks, but they're not going to win you the game, in my opinion. They're not going to carry you to the point like a Mahomes or a Lamar, where they can just really drag a team over the line. I think this game's going to be won in the trenches with that rushing game and with those lines. I think that Lions offensive line is elite. I think that the San Francisco defensive line as well is very, very elite. But at the same time, it's very good at pass rushing, not at run blocking. So I think if the Lions can get Jahmyr Gibbs running, we saw what Aaron Jones did last week. He nearly had 120 yards on the ground himself. If they can get him going, Jahmyr Gibbs, rushing the ball, take the pressure off Goff, open up the secondary, make these throws a little bit easier, that's where the game's going to be won, in my opinion. Interestingly as well, the 49ers are lightly without Deebo Samuel. Am I right in saying that, Tarran?
I think he might be back. I think he's avoided any serious injury, so he could be back.
Wow. Well, hopefully he's back for your point of view. Because when the San Francisco 49ers play with Deebo Samuel, they're 53-23 with Deebo. Without him, they're 8-9. So they have a losing record without Deebo Samuel in their team. And it just shows how important each of those assets that Brock Purdy's got are to the entire team. And it shows that the difference in the levels of the quarterbacks that are in this class. You look at the AFC side of the ball, whereas if you take a receiver or a tight end or a running back out of those teams, Mahomes and Lamar can still elevate them, and it doesn't really change how well they play. Whereas if you take a Gibbs from Detroit, a CMC out, a Deebo out in San Francisco, the entire dynamic of the game just changes and it switches like that. And it's really interesting to see how those two conferences have kind of molded and morphed. Whereas the AFC now is the division where quarterbacks, and you look at all the quarterbacks, the best in the league, most of them are in the AFC. On the NFC side of things, they've invested more in the lines and in the rushing game. And it seems to be the way to get to the championship game in the NFC is completely different in the way to get to the championship game in the AFC. And that's something that I think, Tarrant, is really, really interesting. Yeah. But back to that 49ers versus the Lions game, speak your truth. How do you feel that game's going to go? And how do you feel Brock Purdy is going to hold out with the ball in his hand?
I had a bit of fear going into the Packers game, and it was valid. I saw it. I could see it from a mile off how we were going to play. And I was thankful we got through, because I did not think we were getting anywhere near that championship game come the second half, really, of that Packers game. And obviously knowing the sort of the record that Shanahan has, 0-31 when it comes trailing by 5+ points or something like that in the fourth quarter, I just didn't have any hope. But I still believed, and we come through it. But we can't play like that against this Lions team. I wanted Tampa because we're a lot more comfortable against Tampa. But when you're playing against a team that you don't normally play, we haven't really had to deal with them this season. But they're a team that have torn away a lot of other teams that we've faced, and they've provided a lot of difficulties. And like you mentioned there, they are very good on the offense, but they've also got a lot of assets on the defense as well. And the Niners need to be careful. Brock needs to be careful. We want a clean game. And he just doesn't need to do anything special. I don't think he needs to have the game of his life. I just think he needs to have a good game. I think we've seen that this season plenty of times where he just has a good game and it's more than enough for the Niners to get over the line. And I just think it's one of those things where the 49ers need to convert these championship appearances. It seems like a recurring theme. Seems like a recurring sort of talking point amongst the Niners players is they need to convert this into something, because let's be honest, that window is closing. And I think it's a talking point we should probably go on to, as well as who does this sort of match up, this championship game and the teams remaining, who does it mean the most for? Because I would argue it means the most for this Niners team, because they've had the players there, they've had the assets there, but they haven't been able to walk away with that chip and say, look, this is what we did, even though they've achieved so much and done so well and got so far. They haven't got the trophy and the medal and everything to show for it. Whereas if you look at Lamar, he's got his little shiny MVP, but he hasn't got that sort of same issue, I'd argue, whereas the Niners do. And you look at the Chiefs as well. They don't have that issue. They've been there, done that. It'd just be another chip to add. and the Lions are sort of outcasting, or they're just happy to be there, you'd argue. But for me, I think this is the time. We talked on the other podcast about Josh Allen and his window closing. I think for Shanahan, I think for the Niners, they have to go far. They have to win it this season. Otherwise, it makes it very, very difficult going forward for this Niners team to excel, because they've had it there for a lot of seasons now. They just haven't been able to convert it.
I think Brock Purdy deserves a lot of credit for that. The way that kind of obviously be coming in from this, the last pick in the draft in the 7th round, he's not on a big contract at all. No. And because of that, Shanahan's been able to keep this team together. Yeah. And he's been able to add fantastic pieces. You've seen even this season adding another piece to the defensive line alongside Nick Bosa. Mm-hmm. He's got Fred Warner at linebacker. He's got a superb offensive kind of array of weapons. And that's something that is really unique and only really seen when you've got a quarterback who's on a rookie deal and he's on a deal as cheap as Brock Purdy's on. Now, Brock Purdy, obviously, there's a lot of talk around him as a player. Has he exceeded all expectations? Absolutely, yes, he has. He's been absolutely superb. For a 7th round pick, he's been probably one of the best 7th round picks ever. And I think that's pretty much set in stone.
Yeah.
But my problem with Brock comes is when people start comparing him to other Niners greats, like Joe Montana. I think he's more similar to Jimmy Garoppolo than he is Joe Montana. And I think that's hard to disagree with. I think he's a fringe top 10 quarterback in the league on his day. But when he's not on his day, he does look really, really crap, to be honest with you. And he doesn't fill me with confidence. He can't play when he's behind. He can't play when the pressure's on, in my opinion. When he's in front, when he's got the rushing game going, he's fine. But you've seen what's happened. Even when you bet the Eagles early this season, Eagles started so well. They stopped the rushing game so quickly. But then Shanahan finds a way to get it going. Kyle Shanahan he's the MVP on that team. Obviously, the MVP finalist has been released with both Brock and CMC on that list. But for me, Kyle Shanahan, he's the MVP of that team. And I think that's really hard to dispute.
I disagree, mate. I disagree. Like,
go on.
I hear that because obviously he has I agree with you. When he's playing bad, he looks like a rookie. He looks like a 7th round pick. I hear that. But the amount of games this season where the Niners have been behind or they haven't been at their best, and it all starts from a Brock Purdy throw, or it all starts from a Brock Purdy drive. Like, let's look at the Cleveland Brown game, for example, early on in the season where we lose a game because of a missed field goal. But he hadn't been clicking all game. But when he had to, he drove us down the field. In the game last week against Packers, hadn't been clicking all game. But when he had to, when the pressure was on him, that is the ultimate pressure. Win or go home. Knowing last season, he had to go home with a busted elbow and didn't get to see out the game. That plays a lot on your head when you have to put that ball in your hand. You haven't delivered it all game. And he still drove the Niners team down that field and got him a touchdown out of it. Don't get me wrong. I hear that. I hear the whole argument of he's not an elite sort of quarterback that he's been compared to. And he doesn't play incredible under pressure. I heard that and I sort of feel that. But I also think he has enough evidence to show that when the money's on the line, when it's on him, he delivers. And he's delivered enough times to get the Niners to this point. If he didn't deliver, then the Niners wouldn't be where they are, because at the end of the day, he's that position. He is the man. Like you've mentioned there, I can see what you're saying, but Brock Purdy in the pressure this season, he's one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the league, and he's done it so many times this season. I think he just gets so much hate for the fact that he's done so well now. He went from the sweetheart story of the NFL to just being overhyped by everyone, and now he's just overhated, I think.
I think my issue with Brock Purdy is that I don't think he outplays a quarterback, in my opinion. There's not many games that he does.
When he's outplayed Dak Prescott in his own game this season. He outplayed Jalen Hurts. This is the difficult thing, mate.
I agree with you there, but when you look at those games, what's happened is he started really frail, and he's relied on the assets around him, which is why he can't be the MVP, in my opinion. Last week, even, for example, let's look at that game, your most recent game. You're only as good as your last performance. 2 dropped interceptions, 2 that should have been intercepted, flips the game on its head. Jordan Love played so much better. And yes, he had 2 interceptions himself, but one of those was with the game on the line. It was basically a Hail Mary sort of play where he had to throw it and he was pressuring his face. And again, pressure in your face. You talk about that he's one of those pressured quarterbacks. He is and he's not at the same time. He puts himself in situations where he should just get rid of the ball and avoid the pressure and step up in the pocket. I don't think he's got that good pocket presence in relation to other quarterbacks like your Jordan Loves, like your CJ Strouds. And when people start comparing him to those players, I just think anything else you say about the league is just invalid and just incorrect. Because for me, he's a good quarterback, but I think he's reached his limit, and now his limitations are coming out. And I think we're going to see it this week against a proper team in the Lions. We saw it against a proper team in the Packers, but we'll see what happens. But I'm confident that the Lions go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no chance, mate. I hear this. Sometimes keep my mouth shut. I can't now because if his limit is one game and one win away from a Super Bowl, that's so much more than so many quarterbacks in this league. That's so much more than so many people. And I
agree
hear
with you, but he's got.
Go on, carry on, mate.
He's got so much more than every other quarterback in this league. He's got the best roster. Team should be getting him here.
Yeah, but then this is the issue that we've then got is how many teams have had elite players around them? How many quarterbacks have had elite players around them? Like let's look at Brady at the Patriots, for example. He had elite assets around him, but he was still hailed as the greatest quarterback.
Not to the level that.
If we look at his Tampa time. If we look at the Tampa time when they won the Super Bowl, he had Gronk, he had Leonard Fournette as well, he had Mike Evans, he had assets all around him. But
what's Leonard Fournette doing now? What's he doing now?
This is the whole thing: is how can you have a team without assets around you, and then one player gets told he's the best in the league, and the other gets told he's nowhere near it? I just don't understand how Brock Purdy has been told, and I understand the whole thing, but we've got to remember the man has been shoved into a situation he was never expected to do. He's learning on the job. He spent the entire offseason injured and then came back and was told, you're our starter unless we get Brady. And then he's delivered again. He hadn't lost the game that he started until midway through this season. Do you know how crazy that is?
And then he lost 3 in a row because the pressure was on.
He came back and won even more and then only lost 1 game after that. So
I think it's a topic that we're going to disagree on all day, isn't it? For me, he's not a top 10 player in the league. A top 10 quarterback in the league at all. And I think it's a disgrace that he's in the MVP conversation. And I think I'll be honest, bro, you're going to hate me for saying it, he's not that good. He's good, but he's not that good.
But what would it take? What would he have to do? Does he have to throw one through his legs? Does he have to return a punt? What does a man have to do to be given his flowers?
His entire team has to have a stinker and he has to excel because the throws that he's making, some of them are fantastic. I'll give you that. Some of them are really, really good. But look who he's throwing to. Like, he's got the best receiving core in the league. He's got the best running back in the league. He's got the best O-line in the league. He's got one of the best defenses in the league. Fred Warner, Bosa. The list goes on. Kyle Shanahan is the most offensive-minded coach, one of the best offensive-minded coaches we've had since the 2000s. So it's the best situation for him to be in. I think I'd excel as the quarterback in San Francisco.
Here we go.
I would. No, I would, because I can throw 5-yard passes like Brock Purdy can. And when he can't rely on that, that's when it all goes to shit, mate.
I'm not going to hear it anymore. I'm going to wait. I'm going to keep my mouth shut and just let Brock Purdy show you what he can do at Levi Stadium on the weekend.
Do you know what, mate? I hope he does shut me up. I hope he does.
I hope he does. You've been shut up quite a bit this season, haven't you?
No, bro. Do you know what? I'm still 100% with all my takes. I'm still doing good. I just think, well, we're doing okay.
Texans Bills in the AFC Championship game, eh?
Yeah, that's not my fault, though, is it? Lamar Jackson played unbelievable, and Bills does what Bills do, don't they? It's one of those things. I think, yeah, let's all stop talking and let's just watch this weekend because that game is going to make heroes and it's going to prove me either right or wrong. And I'm sure you'll be happy if it proves me wrong, and I'll be over the moon when it proves me right. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, someone's going to be a villain by the end of this weekend's set of fixtures, but I think there's one thing that we can all agree on is that these are really exciting games. I think we saw the sort of divisional clashes and we kind of knew who was going to win each one. may not have panned out the way that we expect them to pan out, but the teams that we generally thought were going to win ended up winning. But these games, it's very difficult to pick a winner because we don't know on the day. They're teams that have proven that they can win big games. They're teams that have proven that they've got a lot behind them. And I think that makes it a very interesting clash this weekend. And like you said, we're just going to have to watch because we can argue and discuss all we like. But it's these games that matter. And for us Brits, our opinions don't matter either in the end, do they, pal?
Oh, no. God, no. But one thing I would say is we actually haven't said who we think our Super Bowl is going to be. So I'm going to throw it out to you dead quickly, bro. Who is your Super Bowl? Who are the teams? Who is your Super Bowl matchup?
I honestly believe it is going to be the Chiefs and the 49ers playing in the Super Bowl. I believe in Lamar. I think he's going to have an incredible game and an incredible season. But it's so difficult to count Patrick Mahomes out. I've tried it many a times. I've tried many times to bet against the man. But somehow, when it matters, this is a team that have been there, done that, won that, want that. And he still gets it done. I can't go against him. I genuinely think that somehow, some way, doesn't matter how good the Ravens play, Mahomes is going to have a masterclass this weekend and he's going to get the Chiefs through to the Super Bowl. From there, I'm going to go with the Niners to win it. But I think it's going to be the same game that it was a few seasons ago where it was decided by one missed interception and one absolute stinking quarter. And I think it's going to be the exact same run roll from that. But I think Chiefs Niners is going to be the Super Bowl this year.
I think for me, who I want to see in the Super Bowl and who I think is going to win the Super Bowl are two completely different teams, in my opinion. The game that I want to see is Baltimore versus Detroit, and I want the Lions to win it. What I think will happen is Baltimore still going, in my opinion, versus San Francisco 49ers. I think it's hard to say with the team that they've got. I have spoken a lot of crap this podcast, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think that they should win that game. And I think you can beat the Chiefs, but we've seen this season. I don't think you can beat the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're just too good for you. And for me, if it is that and it is the Ravens versus the Niners, the Baltimore Ravens, they're getting a ring on the finger, bro.
Wow, we'll have to wait on any given Sunday to figure out what's going to go on. And you'll have to join us next week to figure out whether I'm in tears, whether I'm still here, or whether I found a new podcast co-host because someone's gone running because of their dodgy predictions. But if you want to find out, you're going to have to come back for more. And that's what we do on this podcast. So make sure to see all of our content on TikTok, YouTube, and Spotify. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a bit of grief if you want to. But as long as you subscribe, doesn't matter. Carry on, do what you want. And we shall see you next week where there's plenty to talk about. We'll be talking all things championship game and previewing the Pro Bowl as well, because I'm sure there'll be a few Cowboys in there. So you might enjoy talking that. Isn't that right, mate?
And they'll be stood shoulder to shoulder with your Niners as well, bro. So I'm sure, it's going to be a great week. And looking ahead in a couple of weeks' time, Super Bowl on the 12th of Feb. Well, I've got the 12th of Feb booked off. It's on the 11th, isn't it? I think we can't wait for it. It's going to be such an exciting time. And then, bro, no more NFL. What are we going to do?
Well, people have to stay tuned because I'm pretty sure we're going to keep them entertained and keep bringing them back over the off season as well. There's plenty more to learn, earn, and yearn about as well. So make sure you're back here, and we'll see you next time on the All Out Brits podcast.
See ya.